Hi there, I'm Danny Henderson. Welcome back to my beautiful channel. And she's back herself, the great, the one and only Andrea Foulkes. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Danny Henderson. And how are you today on this lovely spot? Well, it's a lovely sparkling day in the UK.
Indeed, indeed. I'm doing great. Happy to have you back. And last week we did a beautiful drop with a lot of your information from being a very profoundly known past life regression therapist on British television. You hypnotized many people in many different realms of their own celebrity. And we have found, you and I are friends off screen, and the people that come to my channel love you. So we invited them last week. Yeah, we invited them last week to ask you questions, ask us both questions. And what we're going to do, everybody, we have limited time on this broadcast, unfortunately, but Andrea is going to read through the questions that she saw and she's going to answer them for you. So, darling, do a little intro and then go into the question, just so we can have a recce on who you be. Mwah.
Okay. Who am I? Well, I've been doing work since my awakening, which was 22 years ago in 2023, so it's 23 years nearly. So in the UK, I was the past life regression expert on a TV show called This Morning, and then I went on to do 2 series of a show called Have I Been Here Before? But in private practice, after my awakening, where I was levitating, rewiring my energy body, which we've talked about in other interviews, but I don't think I went too deeply into my big awakening. I think I sort of toned it down because I think it was our first interview. So in the work that I do, I either work with you in person in regression, but since 2011, I've worked a lot going into what I specify are the emotional Akashic records. So I'm very specific. I work with the emotional Akashic records online. So that's weaving between the origin of your emotional trauma, be that past life, inner child, womb trauma, ancestral, between lives, and dealing with entities is my big thing as well. But in the in-person sessions, I'm doing all that, but it's through regression. So those sessions are a lot longer. And I'm guiding you, but you're also guiding yourself, and you're going between lives. And if you're not used to dropping down into your emotional self, which some people are not, if you live in the UK or it's not too far for you to travel, because it's fairly inexpensive to fly to the UK, you can actually come over and do that session. There's people I weave between 2 aspects of that. So that be who I am.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll start with your first question, Andrea.
Okay, my first question from the lovely Kirsten was asking about weight and putting on weight, fluctuating in weight, sugar addiction and armor. And, you know, looking at Danny, you look, which would be an interesting conversation in itself. You look like you've more or less stayed the same weight always. Do you fluctuate in weight or not?
Yeah, definitely. Between 20 and 30 pounds, it's horrible. And, you know, there's a lot of us who are hypersensitive. And because of the foods and the way they're messed with, even the meats, even I was vegetarian last couple of years, 100%. The bodies, the sensitive bodies, they don't do well. Like, our bodies aren't engineered to eat the crap that people put in the foods. And because they've upped all the poisons and ingredients that harm us, then a lot of people like me are fluctuating with weight. So I work at it. I have to work at it. And, you know, months and months of eating clean, no alcohol at all and stuff like that. Because alcohol for me, like I'm super sensitive to it. Like even a glass these days can like, whoa, you know, start talking.
I've never,
you know, more.
I've never really.
I know.
No, I think the thing is with weight, I think what this lady's asking is it linked to past lives? And I'm going to give you a few things that I've realized. When in the past, I don't think I'd ever go to this place again, because I think I can deal with the loss of love. When I was younger and I would have emotional distress through boyfriends, I would lose weight. But dealing with other emotional distress, I would put on weight. So I talked about this on one of my lives this morning on Facebook. When I used to model, obviously I was not just a few pounds, I was a lot stone thinner. And, you know, I was very slim then. But if I was modeling, like sometimes I'd do jobs that were like 6 weeks long, and I'd be in a room with 6 of the models, lovely as they were, but we probably all had stuff, and we were probably in varying levels of empaths or not empaths, but I would like almost absorb the toxic nature of everyone's trauma. And by the end of the 6 weeks, I would have grown in size. Yet on a physical level, you think, well, I was walking to work, I was taking clothes on and off every day, but I was expanding because I was just absorbing all their emotional stuff, and they weren't purposely dropping it on me. You know, nobody's purposely thinking, right, I'll just go and drop my emotional dustbin over this person. You know, it's just, as an empath, you're absorbing that. So we have to learn how to release it. And I've put weight on recently, but also I broke my ankle. I've put on weight since then because, you know, physical rehabilitation takes a while. I've gone through the menopause. But I think also I've seen with clients in regression, I think the key to most of it is your metabolism. You know, what is slowing your metabolism down? And I've seen through clients in regression that you can slow your metabolism down through trauma from past lives. So I'm thinking about one particular session that I had with a lady, and her metabolism had slowed down because in a past life, she died of hunger and malnutrition. So in this lifetime, when she got to the same emotional situation, her body's like, whoa, we're in the same emotional situation. Now, of course, there's lots of food in this lifetime, but the subconscious mind doesn't know that. It's going into its previous programming of, in the other lifetime, you died of hunger. When you got to this emotional stress in a past life, you died of hunger. So how can I help you not die of hunger? I'm going to slow your metabolism down. So you're going to be able to live off your body fat a lot longer, and you're going to not be able to burn through stuff so quickly. So that was why she was holding on to weight, but she wasn't stopping the level of food she was eating. She was still eating the same levels. So her body's just storing it. And I think, you know, I'm somebody also who I have to get my lymphatic system moving. And I just got myself a new mini trampoline yesterday, so I'll be bouncing up and down because you've got to get your lymphatic system moving. And then I saw, oh, a woman, this might be helpful. I saw a woman on Facebook who was actually, not Facebook, I think it was on YouTube, she was showing exercises to decrease the size of your bust naturally. What a wonder that is. And I think it might work, having done 2 sessions of that. So I think we have to move our body, and some of us have to move our body because we are highly sensitive and we're holding on to stuff. You know, when I'm stressed and anxious now, I put on weight. When I was younger, I used to lose weight. So it's dealing with that and realizing that perhaps we don't need so much food, what we eat, you know, all those things. But I think dealing with the emotional trauma of protection, I think, you know, if you think you've got to protect yourself from toxic people, and some of the people who are toxic, they're people we have to be around. So sometimes we have to learn how to deal with these new circumstances and go into the past lives and clear that slowing of the metabolism down, and the stories from the childhood as well that are running in the subconscious.
Yeah, a couple of really great points there, well, many, but 2 in particular that jump out at me, is you mentioned that when you were younger, you would lose weight when you were pining for a boyfriend, and yet when you were stressed on other levels, you would gain weight. And that's a really fantastic point to look at the bandwidth of the kinds of emotions that we go through, that we, you know, appropriate to what we call stress. Pining is a very different altogether. Right. I mean, people literally pine away. They are stripped away to leaving the planet. And, you know, animals pine and etc. And so general stress, of course, has many different layers. So thank you for pointing that out, because I think that would be so helpful for people to sit back and go, oh, you know. And then you also mentioned that as you've got older, that your body gains weight or loses weight in different ways. It's not the same as it was. So if we're still using those former programs from our 20s and 30s, where I feel a lot more of us women are more obsessed about weight in 20s and 30s, and we got our little tricks and tips and all the rest of it, you know. And there are others like me, like I went through a stage years ago of bulimia, and bulimia, yeah, so really overeating, and then I would take laxatives, which is terrible, destructive. It wasn't long, thank goodness, but it was a response to a trauma that had happened, a violent physical trauma that had happened to my body. And I went into the psychology of it, and it was regarding, you know, having no control and needing to be in control, but then frightened of the outcome of that, and then gaining weight and being a larger person is not in my general DNA. So again, to people, I know we're being very vulnerable here, but, you know, I do believe it is helpful to say it like it is. You know, we don't have to share every single wart. I mean, everyone's got them. You guys have them too. There's no such thing as perfect. I think there is just what we are. I am perfect as I am right now. I'm on my journey. Andrea, you are as perfect as you can be right now. You are on your journey. And when we start to judge that idea of perfection that an observer has towards us, well, it doesn't fit. It's never going to fit because it doesn't exist. Perfect doesn't exist. It really doesn't. As a
and also, I think when you're stressed, which I think is a different kind of stress than like you know, the love stress, the stress of dealing with, you know, in my personal situation, you know, elderly relatives, that stress. And also when I was in stressful situations, like I entered beauty pageants when I was younger, but the thing is I'd get constipated, you know, so a bit like you, I'd end up taking laxatives, not because of bulimia, but because of constipation. But I was brought up not drinking enough water, so I probably didn't have enough magnesium in my body, and now I take liquid ionic magnesium as well, and I drink way more water than I was given as a child. And also, you know, I would eat things I wasn't aware of. Although I wasn't given toxic food, I wasn't aware, you know, I eat a lot of organic food now, but back in the day when I was younger, I wasn't aware of things that would make your solar plexus, your allergies, you know, blow up. I wasn't aware of my body as much as I am now. I'm so aware. I'm so aware to hydrate my body. I'm aware to take magnesium, B12, all these things we need to make our colon work properly. And, you know, even stuff that isn't necessarily something we can help you with in our professional skills, but in our advice, I would say go for a colonic. I personally do love a colonic. You know, it's the gift that keeps giving. It can help your system just to shift that backlog of blocked energy, I think, as well.
And again, yeah, water. Now, of course, we're on BoobTube, which is run by the biggest level of retardo that you could possibly not even imagine. They bully, they pick on every single word. So the fact that we are sitting here sharing information between us and our beautiful audience that will see this, you know, could be deemed as, you know, giving medical advice, you know, and they're looking for any reason, especially with our huge conference coming up.
Not entertainment
advice. A little pop, right? But I really wanted to touch on Candida or Candida, with a C, Candida, which is a something in the body where there's an overgrowth of yeast, and which is too much sugar, for example. And again, I remember going to a naturopath, of course. Ideally, that's my first port of call. Always, having said that, I will always consult a Western geezer if I have to. I mean, we can't be stupid about those things. We can't say, oh no, I'm purely organic now. There's no way the Western meds can help me. That's just silly. You know, they're there for a reason. You know, they're not all poisons. Excuse me. Ooh, that's my body saying, are you sure? Are you sure though? Yeah, so Candida. So I remember going to a naturopathic doctor. He pointed out, here's what your issues are. This is, you've got a massive overgrowth of yeast everywhere, internally, on the gut and everywhere. And I felt so unwell, sluggish, brain fog, bloated. And I went on a very simple, and there's tons on BoobTube, Candida, Candida, Candida diet, which is just clearing out, just clean foods, cucumbers, and anyway. And then within 3 days, I dropped 9 pounds, and I couldn't understand. And the doctor said to me, Danny, what you have to realize is when people's bodies react to input, ingestions of whatever it is, whatever they put in their bodies, levels of inflammation has weight to it. Inflammation absorbs and holds water potentially in certain areas, also potentially. And so this 9 pounds of weight I was holding was just inflammation. As the body was given the right foods, it could stop fighting itself. But on from that, many people have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and ME.
But you know what that is as well? I had the same thing when I was younger, still modeling before the big awakening. I ended up going to see the specialist Candida doctor in the allopathic hospital, and he was very wise. He said to me, "So tell me about your boyfriends." I'm like, "What's this got to do with Candida?" And he said, "So tell me about these boyfriends. You know, when did this Candida start?" So I'm like, "Where's he going?" But he was really good, because he said, "When did this Candida start?" I said, "Oh, well, you know, what was it before you had boyfriends?" I said, "No." And he said, "So when you went out with these boyfriends, would they take you out for dinner?" And I was like, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Did they take you to different places than you went with your parents?" I'm like, "Yes." And he said, "Did you eat different foods?" I said, "Oh, yes." And, you know, he narrowed it down to it actually being, he said, "And were they things your parents wouldn't allow you to eat at home?" I said, "Oh, yes, I wasn't allowed to eat garlic. I had to keep that at the bottom of the garden in the shed." And so what he figured out was, and then I figured out, there's a little stalk within garlic that we're allergic to. It's the stalk within the garlic. You have to take this tiny little stalk out. And it was the combination of garlic. Oh, talk about the parents. And my dad is calling me. Wait 1 second.
I will put you on.
He knows that.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Busy if I do that. So back to this thing. So it was the combination of, you know, in the 80s, it was very popular to have garlic bread, but my body couldn't deal with the garlic bread. And also, as we know now, you know, people are going around going, "Oh, I'm gluten intolerant." But in general, you're not gluten intolerant. You're intolerant to the glyphosates that they spray on wheat. And in the UK, they tend to spray glyphosates before they harvest it. They don't do it with French and Italian wheat. As far as I'm aware, that's what I know. I may be incorrect, but what I found is when I eat wheat that is, you know, French or Italian or proper artisan quality grain bread, it doesn't bloat you up. Or sourdough, as we all know, sourdough is really good. So it's really making sure that you don't create a toxic explosion in your body.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the toxic explosion, which is what creates the terrible symptoms that a doctor, an uneducated doctor who isn't educated in holopathic, understanding the body, and it's not their fault that the education the doctors are given en masse is purposefully created and curated to keep them away from the natural, organic, true being that they're actually servicing. Of course, we do know that. So Candida, it covers up many, or Candida, the presents itself as many other misdiagnosed illnesses. So again, as we're going there, we didn't know we were going to hit Candida. We knew we were going to talk about lady, right? But it's important. It's important because I had never heard of it. And some of you out there have never, ever heard of Candida or Candida. So go look.
Or thrush.
It can cause thrush. Yeah, absolutely. For women, but for men too. Which is the overgrowth of yeast in the body, which is caused by terrible foods and sugars and stuff like that. So go check. All right, let's move on to the next question.
And you know what I used to eat? And again, I think this is when I created too much yeast in my body, was we used to have a lot of twiglets. Do you remember twiglets? Like, if you're allergic to yeast, twiglets are like dipped in Marmite. It's like too much yeast for your body. Your body can't cope with that. So it's like really sometimes specific foods as well. And obviously MSG we know now is bad, but in the 80s we didn't really know how bad MSG is for us as well. Exactly. Shall we move on? She mentioned sugar addiction as well. Oh my God, I could write a book on sugar addiction.
I was totally like, now I drink like black coffee, no sugar. Now and again I'll get a stevia, this drip, because I went get this made me crazy. I had a tantrum in the grocery store. I get back from whatever country I've been to, I can't remember. I go to the store, I get stevia, the packets of stevia, because I like a little sweetener in my tea or my coffee, right? And I'm drinking it and I'm like, this is wrong. This is wrong. My body, I'm feeling it all. And I read, and they've put bloody dextrose into stevia. It is criminal. It is absolutely criminal what they're doing to us, to the whole world. You know, there are people allergic, violently allergic to dextrose, but they don't care. Oh, it's on the label, you know. Anyway, so be mindful. So I mean, that's one thing.
I've never had an issue with sugar. My thing is I love salty things. I think you either like sweet or salt. I like salty things. And I'll just encapsulate the whole thing why I know a lot about sugar, because obviously my mum died with dementia, not of dementia, but all her teeth fell out from her obsession with the dementia of eating sweets. And my dad naively pandering to letting her suck all these boiled sweets all the time, and all her teeth fell out from. And then she was like a crack addict to sugar. She was, you know, she'd be rolling sweets up hidden, you know, in her arms of her thing, reflecting her childhood of poverty and not having many sweets, and how she must have grilled them and hidden them. She was very crafty with the sweets. And, you know, I mean, you laugh at it, it's funny, but sometimes I say to her, you know, when I was staying, "Well, take your bra off and half a pound of sweets and roll out of the bra." You know, she'd have them hidden down her bra. You know, she was like a crack addict of sugar. And of course that didn't help her health. And because I didn't live with her, you know, you have to forgive yourself if you have any loved ones, because if you're not with them 24/7, you cannot stop them. Even if they weren't with you, they might be in a care home, and unless you can control all the food that they're taking, you do the best you can. But for me personally, with my salt addiction, which I do love salt, I only use Celtic sea salt. I did go through a stage of using black salt, Himalayan salt, but now I just use grey Celtic sea salt, and it's grey. It's a grey colour. It's the best salt in the world. And Danny has disappeared for a minute, but I'm sure she'll be back. So I would say buy the grey salt. The grey salt is the best one. And then Kirsten also asked about emotional armor, like you've got to protect yourself. And of course, you know, if we're around toxic people, you know, if you're living in a situation around narcissistic people, psychopaths, toxic people to your body, you're going to put on weight to emotionally protect yourself, because your body is reacting, saying this isn't safe, and your mind is going, but they're saying one thing and smiling, and I am so confused. Your body goes into fight or flight. So in a fight or flight, it's going to put on physical weight to protect yourself. So if you're in a relationship that's really toxic and you start putting weight on and you think you're not eating particularly anymore, it might be as a sign that you need to address the denial of your emotional situation.
Yeah, amazing point, amazing. Again, we'll move from this subject, and the lovely lady that asked that question, thank you so much. Again, it opens up a massive kind of gauntlet of subjects that we could just traverse as we mosey along there. But again, Candida definitely came up for people watching this, so let's have a little checky-roo and make sure that you're not misdiagnosed with something when it could be as simple as readjusting and your food intake. All right, my love.
The lovely Susan Lewis has asked what to look for in a regression therapist, and how many sessions do you need to resolve issues? Okay, what to look for? I mean, I've been doing this work 22 years. You know, I make videos, Danny makes videos. You can physically see us, so you can hear us chitty chatting. You know, sometimes people see us and go bang straight away, I saw you speaking with so-and-so, I saw a video of you, I saw you on TV, I just knew you'd help me. Now I have people who say I saw you on TV and it's taken me 15 years to book a session with you. You know, that's how long it takes people. Other people, they're like bang straight away, they know. But you know, not everybody who offers this work makes videos, although a lot of people do nowadays. Yeah. So you know, I've had people also say to me, oh, I'm thinking, you know, we're very busy, okay? you cannot understand what it's like having a social media profile where we're not just therapists, we put ourselves out there in the social media world. And the price for that is you get hundreds, if not thousands of people at times in your life contacting you on a personal level. And we have to discern. If you've gone on my website, for me personally, this is, and booked a session, then of course it's going to happen. If you're going, I'm thinking about booking a session with you, I've got all these questions, and it might be me replying or someone else replying on my behalf, but they'll literally say, go to her videos, all these answers are here. If you're not sure about a session, I'm not going to spend half an hour talking to you about the concept of you maybe booking a session. I don't have time for that. And if you're not making videos and you find somebody, read the testimonials, but the testimonials, right? They have to be genuine testimonials. You can make up your own little testimonial and stick it on your website. My testimonials are genuine. They're linked to my Facebook review page. You can see they're real people, they're real testimonials. If you can't watch a video of me or Danny or whoever and go, that's for me, then you're not meant to work with us. If you are going, jump hoops, Danny and Andrea, you need to justify why I should book a session with you. That's not how it works. Yeah. However, if you're going to somebody who you're like, you know what, all I've got is a website, I'm not sure. If that person isn't putting themselves out there like we are, then yes, maybe they should give you a 10-minute consultation on the phone so you can ask a couple of questions. But most people nowadays, if they're worth their salt, any good, they will be, written something. I personally haven't written a book. Danny has written books. I've been out there in the field doing my thing. I make the little videos to help people. If you've read somebody's book and you're like, love what they've written, I'm going to go and see that person. So that's, I think, how you discern it. How many sessions? Me personally, one. You need to book one session with me, be that half an hour, but for the regression ones, they're 2 hours. They're the ones in person. They have to be 2 hours. It can't be really any less than that. Awesome. But how many sessions? Pay for one. I don't think you need to book a load of courses with people, where they're like, you need to book a course of 10 sessions. Wow, you don't necessarily need 10 sessions. We could fix that thing in half an hour, if you're willing to go into yourself and release it. If you're not, it might take a lot longer because the denial of yourself might be deeper. And a lot of people have a huge level of denial of themselves. And that's more that they're not. See, when you see somebody in person and I do the regression, you will see your own denial of self. Like, I had a lady once, I think she'd come from Scotland to London. So she'd come from Scotland, come all this way to do a session with you. And because I was seeing her in person, I'm taking her down this corridor in the regression. We get to the door where all her stuff that she told me why she was there for the session, she had a lot of issues. I can't remember exactly what the minutiae detail now, but I remember she come all this way to deal with her stuff. And I'm going to go along the corridor, see the door linked to whatever the emotional trauma was. She said, yep, can see the door. I'm like, do you want to go through the door? And sometimes there's a reticence with people. Sometimes you can find there's an entity in the way blocking them from going through the door. And this is where you've got people who aren't really good at regression. They don't have all the tools. They can't go, oh, right, we need to go into this mode now where we're going to be dealing with entities, because that's why they can't go through the door. This might be because they need to heal an inner child issue first. Or, this might be because it's an ancestral issue. So I go through all these things with this woman. And she's like, no, not going through the door. I'm like, okay, we've covered all those options. She said, no, I truly don't want to face it. So I bring her back round after I've done the best I can. And she said, listen, don't worry. What I've got from this is that I've come all this way from Scotland and I don't want to deal with my stuff. I'm not ready. Thank you and goodbye.
Oh my gosh. Ah, well, at least she was honest that it was her.
Which is rare, it's rare, but
Right.
to have that level of honesty in someone to go, I get it. It isn't your fault, Andrea, that you can't regress me. Because you get some people saying, well, if it doesn't work, can I have my money back? But
So
it's like,
rude.
well,
So
I
rude.
spent 2 hours.
Let's spend a minute
2
on
hours.
can we just spend a minute on that? Because you and I, in our careers, we are, you know, given, we're trained, we're qualified, we were certified in so many areas. And it is an inherent arrogance in someone. And I do have compassion for them because their anger is on the surface and their rage and their self-entitlement is on the surface. And these are all areas for them to have a look and recalibrate internally. But until we get inside and we do the work, we don't see any of that arseholery that's putting itself out there, that's offensive and rude. And you know, I've had so many people, especially in the last couple of years, they're like, nom, 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 hang on, let me put me cheesy whatsits down, prove it, prove aliens are real. I'm like, delete, goodbye. I just boom, boom. I don't, before I used to feel like I have to answer every email, I have to acknowledge. And I had to sit down one day and go, what is that? What is behind that, Danny? Is it you got a huge ego, lady? Like, check yourself. And I'm like, wow. And then it was like this exhaustion came up of all these years of being in the therapy, being in the trenches with the most beautiful people. Everyone has a beauty in them. Some of them are angry, violent, lost, abusive, and some of them will see their stuff, like that lady came. At least she took the physical time, physically changing the environment to go all that way to then say, I can't do it. All on her, all ego of self. But maybe that was a little first chink step, because we all come to it carefully. I made some notes about your how to find a regression therapist. Well, I definitely would. I'm concerned about some online, like there's, you know, Dolores Cannon, for example. Absolutely incredible lady, no question. What people have failed, you're not going to like this, and it's okay. Take it or leave it, it's okay. But at least we got an opportunity to hear something else to make a balanced view, right? Dolores Cannon had no control over the human that was hypnotized in front of her. Of course, she wasn't about controlling people. She's the therapist. She takes them into trance. She sits there and she makes notes, or she recorded their sessions. What would happen? The person would speak. The person would say, I am from the Pleiades. I am from Zeta Reticuli. I am from the Orion segment of Betelgeuse, or whatever it was. She wasn't trained in all the aspects of negative alien interference. So of course her ultimate delivery to the world is, there are no negative aliens. That is 100,000% bullshit. It's a lie. Did she lie on purpose? God, no. Cannon did
No,
not
and somebody got offended
Andrea, it's a very important point, because women
yeah
are training on the back of Dolores and doing the same shit, and then sending people off because they've got no education themselves. That was my point.
I know. And the thing is, though, over the years, you know, I've kind of kept silent a bit over that technique that she taught. And I've met her twice. And I met her on the astral plane once before I met her in the physical realm, which is quite an experience. And there's some other stuff that, you know, but I think Dolores was where she was at the time, you know, and she's passed over now, and her daughter's taken over the reins, and it's a big marketing program for that technique, in my opinion. And I think that where she was at that time is, she didn't have an awareness of spirit releasement. I don't think she had an awareness of the level of how I work. I don't think she was working with the inner child. And people have been offended when I've said this, but I've said, and I think it's true, I don't think Dolores was working on her own physical body or health. I don't think she was. So, you know, if you're saying, I'm just this detached observer, I'm just observing this stuff, I'm just this observing hypnotherapist, there's a very big difference between being this, oh, I'm just this observing hypnotherapist, as opposed to someone who's, I'm on my own spiritual journey. I'm deeply, deeply passionate about healing my physical body and healing my emotional body. That is my reason for what I do. her reason was completely different. I don't think she focused on the healing aspect.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's different ways as well to you know, when we're doing our work. I remember over the years, the most famous people that booked me for private therapy sessions, spiritual mentoring training, or inner child regression, past life regression, those are the people, and I won't say their names because I don't need to and I don't care to. I'm not impressed by them at all myself, but those people never shared me with their crowd, because they wanted to hold that information for themselves. I mean, it's their information, but it was really interesting over the last 25 years witnessing the ego in people. And what else? They would never share the most famous and the most wealthiest. The wealthiest that would sit me down and say, Danny, have a look at my business. Have a look at my business for me. What do you feel? What do you see? Check into this person, that person, that person. And I would, and they would have massive success. A couple, I would go around to the house. I would do a land blessing, so the house would sell. One woman in particular, Dolphin Road in La Jolla, this really bugged me years ago, wailed and cried and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give you 10% of the sale, Danny. Well, the house sold within 3 days. Never saw a penny of it. Like, people shouldn't do that. You know, it's just not nice, you know? So again, when you're looking to say to people, check your regression therapist, check your therapist, like, check out the background. You know, check out, like Andrea said, are they made up their own little testimonials there? You know, or are they real? When someone sits on YouTube like this, you can feel the resonance in them. You can hear the tones between the tones. You know, it's a good idea to sit and feel the frequency of the people there and listen. And how open are they? Can they drop their ego? Do they think they're all that in a bag of chips? You know, can they own their own failures? Somebody who hasn't experienced what they profess to be an expert in, I am very suspicious of. Very suspicious of. What say you?
One lady, I won't name her now. I mean, the thing is, I'm protecting a woman who's obviously a therapist. Years ago, when I was on TV, you know, you've got all these magazines like Spirit and Destiny. There used to be one called Soul and Spirit, and people called me and said, Andrea, there's a woman saying she's the regression therapist for Have I Been Here Before, and she's using a picture of herself slightly out of focus with long blonde hair, and we know it's not you, but she wasn't the regression therapist for these TV shows. It was me. So ITV had to contact her. I contacted her first of all and said, why are you using this illegal marketing technique? It isn't you, it was me. I know how hard that work was to do those shows. You know, it was me. It wasn't you. They were all me. And she wouldn't stop. She was just advertising in all these magazines. So in the end, ITV wrote this letter that I could give to advertisers to try and stop them from marketing her, because the advertisers wouldn't believe me, because remember, it was before YouTube, so I couldn't show them clips of the show like, look on YouTube and you'll see it's me. This woman cannot prove any evidence that it was her. And her justification in her warped mind was because once one of the producers who, you know, when you're a producer, you're a freelance producer, you work on lots of different TV shows. But one producer had rang her once to ask her questions about regression. And the producer had said, oh, I was the producer for a show called Have I Been Here Before? So her tenuous link to justify her marketing for herself was because one of the producers who I had worked with for months and months recording these shows rang her for a chat for half an hour once.
Yeah, it's shocking. And now look at today, 2023. People, both of us, we've had everything cloned. There are people that pretend to be Danny Spiritual at Danny Spiritual Therapist on Telegram, approaching the beloved public and saying, unite in blessings, send me money. I would never do that. I would never, ever, ever do that. So it's all bullshit. I'm not even on Telegram. You have to have an account, but I don't use it. Then I can jump on other people's accounts if I'm ever on there, which I'm rarely on Telegram. I'm not very technically, plus it's such an energy to get on there. I don't enjoy it. I'm not on Instagram. I had someone write to me today, please take me to GALACTIC. Please, can you help me? Please, please, please. And you know, they sent a couple of links and I thought, well, I'll read their email. I could feel there was a real earnest energy in the email. And I clicked on that, but I haven't got Instagram. Not a working account. I haven't worked it for years. It's I don't even know which one it is. You know, so again, you know, but I'm getting off track here a bit. Cloning accounts, all of us are cloned. So be careful. Be careful out there. All our accounts, Facebook. People have reported a Facebook account. Danny Henderson with an A. You know, and then Facebook come back because Facebook are run by just the biggest retardos you could ever not even comprehend. Proof. And they're like, no, we don't see anything wrong with that. My face, my picture, my credits, everything. But no, it's not a fake account, losers. Anyway, continuing.
The other thing is, you know, I personally have never really spent any money on advertising, and I've been going 22 years. You know, I've not had to pay to advertise. Yeah, you've got to get your stuff out there, and they're trying to shut people like us down, but still I've managed to do that. I have people who've been to see me, you know, and I'm like, so how did you hear about me? And they're like, I was given your name in a dream and I Googled you, because I call that my astral marketing. I just sometimes just go, okay, sending out into the cosmos and the universe, the people who need to come to me, the divine people, that they will be given my details in the correct way for their soul. Marketing done.
It is incredible. That's a beautiful, it's a magical level of putting energy into the ether, and for that to touch the people who are going to vibrate with you and rhythmize with you.
And I think sometimes people who see, when I had this awakening, and probably Danny the same, because, you know, we've been doing this a long time. Back in when I woke up in the 2000s, nobody was going around going, I think I might like to be a regression therapist. That's what I'm going to be. Yes, I think so. It wasn't. You'd have a spiritual awakening, and it just morphed into, you know, synchronicity of synchronicity of synchronicity. And that's how it rolled. Whereas nowadays, I think you've got people who are going, I'm going to do this because I can make money. And although, yes, you do need to make a living, that was not my primary motivation. I gave up modeling going, I can remember the day I was stood there modeling some clothes and they were waffling on about the colors of the season. And I was like, I don't care about the colors of the season. Do you know what I'm doing with these people? They're healing from amazing things. I'm more interested in that. And I can remember stood there just zoning out of someone going on about fashion and me being so not interested anymore. Just this passion for helping people heal their emotional selves, their mental selves, their physical selves, their etheric selves. You know, we're healing on so many levels, isn't it?
Indeed. I'm very aware that you and I, you know, I know we're friends off camera anyway. So we're just having, this would be like if you and I were just like hanging out, right, normally. Which we're obviously having an open chat with the beautiful audience here. But I am very, very aware that we have gone way off track of the questions, the Q&A. So this is our very first Q&A, and I don't think we're very good at it.
Together. In one sentence, what would you say? I love a tangent though, because tangents are very clever, because you go to tangent but you bring it all back at the end, and we've both got stuff to do and we're going to have to go, but we will be back again with more questions, I'm sure. And the thing is though, sometimes people I think we're ranting, but you have to understand, if you've been doing this work for 22 years, you do get frustrated that, and it seems that recently I've had people, I've been putting out how you book a session with me, that it works. It's a formula that works. I've been doing the same thing, it works. But recently I've had a couple of people who seem to not be able to deal with the formula. You know, they can't tell me where they live. They can't tell me what time zone they live in. They can't give me this basic information of what days and times they can do. It seems to be beyond them. So it makes it very arduous to communicate in this level. So try to make it easier for yourself. And then you think, well, I understand why this person's having difficulty in their lives. If you can't communicate and understand basic questions, that's going to be reflective of how your life is. are you somebody who doesn't read information? You know, all the information is there on a website underneath the payment button. How can you not see that? So, you know, when somebody says, can you go back to the website and read that information? It's showing you, it's a lesson, and it's a gift in itself, because you start to see, I'm sure it's the same with Danny now with her conferences coming up, you know, people asking ridiculous questions, which I'm pretty sure, because I went on the website to look up the conference, I'm pretty sure she's gone, right, people have asked me these questions, bang, 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 I'm going to answer all those questions on the website. Go to the website, the answers are there. But people don't do that.
No.
And you know what you learn when you go to the website? All the information's there. You learn personal responsibility. And that is such a life lesson, such a life lesson. You know, Danny's got, when we're recording this, she's got a couple of days to this big conference coming up. Be mindful, be thoughtful that somebody doesn't have time to be answering your questions. You know, just think, I've got to figure this out myself. I cannot be thinking that she's going to answer that. Yeah, maybe somebody else might be able to answer it, but maybe go to the website first of all. The map, the instructions, whatever it is you need, it's probably there. You know, can I have lunch when I'm there? All these small things, but important things, they will be covered on websites. That's why sometimes you think, why do I pay for a website if people don't go to the website?
Yeah. It's interesting too. I found that, like myself, sometimes I can't, because I'm so in between worlds a lot, you know, and I own it. This is part of my physical biome inside this vessel, this physical vessel. And I don't know, I'll wake up in the morning. Sometimes I still ask myself, is it a school day? Meaning I don't realize it's true. And it happens all of the time. It's just, this is my whole life. I wake up, is it a school day? You know, I always wake up and have certain mantras in the morning. So I'll set the day for positivity, for happy, for joy. And then I will not know what country I'm in, what day it is. The other day I thought it was January. Didn't I tell you that? Oh, it was Nikki.
Well,
I thought it was
this morning.
Right, but legitimately, I'm like, oh, it's January the 12th. I'm like, no, Danny, you're in October now. Like this was September, so we're still in September. See, I don't even know. And then I was talking to Jerry Wills, who's our beautiful ET speaker, who's going to be speaking on Zoom. He's the only guy on Zoom, speaking on Zoom for the conference that's coming up, Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, Orlando, Florida. And he's the same. So he also falls out of time. So he's got Kathy, his beautiful wife, who organizes his schedule, you know, and I need that. So a lot of people I know, like, they'll go to a website, look at a form and just go, oh, and then they're gone, they're out, they clunk out. But you're right. When we start to really go in, we got to get a hold of that. We have to make ourselves, I've had to make myself do that. So if I can do it, as dizzy as I am and as scattered as I am and all over the place and don't know what bloody, you know, how old I am or where I live or whatever, what time it is, we got to pull that in. Central point of energy, central point of focus, and, you know, get on your website and go there and book. And if, don't say, I don't do PayPal, just sign up. It's easy. It's an email. You know, you have to work with a therapist sometimes who doesn't do all the natural.
PayPal to pay. You don't need PayPal to pay via PayPal.
Right.
This is, you don't need an account. And it's, I'm dyslexic when I write. So I, you know, if you want me to reply to you, you're going to think, oh God, is she got a brain? Because,
right. Yeah.
You know, I'm dyslexic. I read back to myself, or I'm multitasking doing something. I love voice memos. I'm really into the voice memos. So they're quick. I can explain a lot. You know, my gift in communication is my voice. So it's easier for me to go, blah, 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 you know, than go kind of thing. I just, you know, I can write because obviously, you know, given a square of Facebook, I can sort of fill that. But, you know, that's why I admire you having written books, because I know I need to write books. I could do, you know, audio do it and that way. But my brain cannot seem to compute it.
Yeah. On a very, very quick point on that, because I know you have to go. I spoke with somebody, I can't remember who it was, this week, and I was explaining to them that they are so brilliant, their mind is so quick. By the time the motor skill has caught up to the verbal, to the voice box to put those words out, they've left the room. Their brilliant brain is already down the road. To have to come back and get back on the donkey, the wonky donkey, and work with the mechanics inside the brain, inside the body, the mainframe computer system. It's not fair. And yet they are the ones who were judged as being the dimmest, the slowest. It's just the rudest thing ever. It's so reversed, of course. You know, if people feel that way, just take a breath, just sit down. I still have tantrums. I'll still have a little cry. I'll still rage. And that's all from childhood. In a moment of, and I'll just go, Danny, chill out, girl. Sit back.
And know your skill.
Get grounded, and then take it a chunk at a time. You're gonna do it. It's all right. You know, we all struggle with stuff like that.
It's like, you know, there's no way I could do my own accounts. It's beyond my comprehension. There's no way I could add those numbers up and get them right. It's like, this is why you have to know your skill set. And there are many things you could be good at, okay? And you could, you know, enhance your skills and gifts. So that's a whole other thing, which isn't on my questions, but past life skills and gifts being brought into the now. But, you know, I haven't come to this lifetime to start adding up numbers and doing accounts, you know, I haven't. And so I'm not prepared to do it. I refuse. So while accountants exist in the world, you know, and I do know, because I did have a friend once when I said, oh, I've got to give these numbers to my accountant. And I said, oh, I can't even get the bits of paper in order. So she goes, and then she says, numbers are fun. And I'm like, oh, good for you.
Mad cow.
You know, and feel bad that, you know, often even when I, you know, sometimes people still pay cash, and, you know, I'll go to the bank and I can see, you know, when we have to take the cash in, and I, you know, in the old days it was worse, because they'd go, oh, you've given me £100 more than what you've claimed, you've written down that you've got here. I'm like, well, that's your job, you do that. You know, I have to trust to a degree that these cashiers are just adding up the numbers right, because I can't do it.
Yeah. No, it's totally. When I'm at the bank and cash, guys, you know what's happening. They're trying to take cash away from us. The second you don't, if you don't use cash and you think about it, and you've got all your money in the bank, the World Economic Forum and the WHO, who are running the world right now, along with Vanguard and all those other arseholes, they can take control of your bank account. Don't think they won't, because they will, and they already have. In many regards, in many different things across the planet. Even the oligarchs in Russia, when the Ukraine and Russia war started, what did Putin do to the oligarchs in Russia? He shut down their bank accounts. They all have access. Don't think they don't. So again, if we don't, as you know, if we don't use cash, like how dare anyone say you can't give your kid 10 quid, you can't give that man sweeping the street $20, you know, stop. They don't get to say it, we get to say it. So if we stop using cash, we are screwed. We are absolutely down. We're going to start.
You know what happened to me? I thought I'd lost all my credit cards. So I spent 2 hours cancelling all of them, only to find them. It was because I was stressed, you know, dealing with my dad. I was stressed. And then I found them. But by then I cancelled them. Thankfully, I always go around, you know, with a bit of cash in my pocket. I live on my own. It's not like I can say to my partner, oh, you know, can you pay for this on your credit card? If you've cancelled all your credit cards, you have no other form of income for 5 days. So we can't get rid of cash. We need cash. You know, I don't want AI to know where I've been, at what time I spent what money. I don't want them to know that algorithm of how I live. You know, because then you're going to be used for predictable programming, for selling you stuff and controlling where you go, what you do. And the AI can only work if you give into this total control of, you know, what time you spend money, where you go. You don't realize that by you using your credit cards only, that allows AI access to equate exactly how you live your life. You can become so predictable that there will be no freedom for you.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think people think that that's not the plan. It is the plan. You just have to look up Agenda 2030, Agenda 2025. Do not trust the WEF, the WHO, your Gates, your Fauci's, your Soros's. They're all Muppets at the top, but there's other puppeteers mastering their movements. You know, we think we know who the real dark ones are on the planet. We really don't know who's totally behind.
You can see their faces. They're not in control.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Anyway, enough about that. So I know you have to go, right? Look, it's 15 past.
I need to go. We've got to get on with our lives.
So listen, we're going to have to come back again next week. I think we answered 2 questions, which we need to do more. So next time we'll focus more on the questions, everybody. It's just as well because my things get touched and messed on my laptop, and my Word program was taken off again, so I couldn't even download the questions, and you'd written them down, but you know, it's fine. This is how we do what we do, Andrea Foulkes, you lovely.
Love a tangent. We do love talking at tangents, because I think sometimes we're doing it again now. We're channels for information to come through, which is beyond the logic. So, you know, that's really 3D saying, answer just these questions. That's so 3D, because we're going to a cosmic field of information, and what we're bringing through is probably from that quantum field. You know, within the quantum field, it opens up other information, and always it's what people need to hear. So we thank you for listening today. Thank you so much. And at this point, Danny's off to have a fabulous conference in Orlando. Is it Orlando in Florida? Yes.
Yeah. Orlando, Florida, October 20th, 21st, and 22nd, the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection. I'm actually going on with Stu Peters, Scott McKay, and somebody else soon, to have fun and play there as well, and you know, reach out to their lovely audiences. So excited. The hotel rooms have now sold out at the conference hotel where the conference is, but there are a ton of hotels. You can email GISIC, galacticspiritualinformers.com, and the team there will give you a list of hotels in the area. Holiday Inn just across the street, literally 3 minutes. I stayed there last year, 3 minutes walk across the street. They're next door to each other. You've got to cross over a road, a double dual carriageway, that's safe. Can you imagine that in England? Crossing a dual carriageway, oh my God. Yeah, so anyway, we're waffling on here. So Galactic Spiritual Informers, October 20th, 21st, 22nd. Amazing speakers. ELENA, DANAAN, Dr. Michael SALLA, Jean-Charles Moyen, Tony Rodriguez, Brad Olson, so many, bringing you the truth, dropping bigger bombs, uncensored bombs on upstairs and downstairs on your planet. All right, Andrea, I love you, girl. Just tell us the name of your website again for those that don't.
And my website is andreafoulkes.com, and my YouTube channel is Andrea Foulkes Past Life Regression. And I love Facebook as well, so I'm on there. 2 pages on Facebook. Much love, many blessings. Bye.
Thank you, darling. Much love to you guys out there.
Thank you.
See you soon.